Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. As I anticipated, my day job, along with purchasing a new vehicle last week, impeded me from putting out a new video, but I hope this week's video will be worth waiting for. Back about 6 weeks ago, I did a trip in the southern Adirondacks to shoot waterfalls, and the waterfalls looked great, but unfortunately it was too early for any wildflowers. So this week, I have 10 tips to share with you to help you get better wildflower photos and give you some additional tools to expand your creativity shooting spring wildflowers. So shoot close up, fill the frame. One of the best ways to show off a wildflower's beauty is to fill the frame with a picture of that flower. Try to imagine yourself as a kid again when you were lower to the ground and you were looking at everything closer. This will help give you and the viewer an opportunity to see the flower in a way that may not be normally seen in that context. Plus, you can sometimes pick up minute details like insects or spider webs that, from a standing viewpoint, may not be visible. So the other thing you're going to want to do when you're trying to take photos of wildflowers is get down to their level. Don't always shoot from the top, because that's typically what everybody is going to see. As you're walking through the woods, you're looking down on the flowers just like everyone else. So what you want to do is you want to get down to their level. Shoot low, or sometimes maybe even try to shoot from below the flowers and give a perspective that most people aren't going to see. So in this instance, you can see I have some diotics sitting underneath this grouping of ferns. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting down low. I'm shooting with a 70 to 200 at 135 millimeters, zoomed in, and isolating those flowers. But I'm allowing the green foliage to frame the flowers. So they really pop and stand out. But I'm shooting down low so that I'm giving a different perspective than what most people would actually see from just walking by them. Shooting the environment, what I mean by that is use the flowers as a foreground element. So when you're shooting flowers, ask yourself, does it make sense to shoot just the flowers themselves, or do you also want to include some of the background in your image to give the subject a sense of space and place? In this example, I wanted to show the bluets close up, but also show the environment that they're growing in, which was just as beautiful along the river and adds to that composition. But you could also use the flowers as the main subject. Sometimes you just want the background, or the background's too busy, so it may make more sense to shoot just the flowers and have the background totally blurred out. If the background isn't too busy, I'll shoot my main subject with shallow depth of field and just allow the backdrop to drop off slightly out of focus, but you can tell where the flower resides and you can still get an idea as to what the atmosphere or the environment is like. So something else that you can use to help with the lighting situation, if you need more diffuse light or if you need to reflect some light, is to use a reflector diffuser. I've got one here. It's small, compact, opens up, allows me to use the silver side to help reflect light, but it also inside has a light diffuser, so then I can use this to actually diffuse the amount of light that's falling on the flowers. The other thing I can do with this is I can use this to help block the wind. So in this situation where I've set up the camera to take some pictures of the buttercups with some of the tall grasses in the background, I could potentially use the diffuser to help block any wind from moving the flowers, or I can use it to diffuse the light falling on the flowers, and that will help with avoiding any movement in the photograph, as well as knocking down some of the light so that the exposure is correct. So watch your background. As in tip number 3 with shooting the environment, sometimes the environment doesn't add at all to your composition, whether it's blurred out or whether it's perfectly sharp. So it may make sense to find something that's unidentifiable to put behind your subject, whether it's darker or lighter. Then you can get your flowers to stand out against that background. So in this case, for example, I found an old log nearby that was darker than the wildflowers that I was trying to shoot, so I got down low, pointed the lens at the flowers using the log as a backdrop, which really helped make the subject stand out. Focus stacking for depth of field. Sometimes you need to focus stack your images to get full focus from front to back. And in this example, I wanted to get all of the flowers, the forget-me-nots in this case, in the scene in focus. A small aperture would get me acceptable focus all the way to the back, but I wanted to ensure that the standing tree in the back was in absolute focus. Of course, I missed when a gust of wind came up and moved the forget-me-nots in the front, but I don't think it distracts too much from the image, and your eye tends to move toward the sharper parts of the image anyway, so your eye will move from the front to the back, and then hopefully back to the middle of the image. So speaking of blocking the wind, I used the diffuser from tip number 4 to help with blocking the wind when the shutter was clicking off the image. Sometimes though, you just have to use a higher shutter speed if you're unable to stop the wind from moving the flowers. Sometimes you can hold them in place, but another alternative is to not block the wind at all. It can be useful to use it for creative purposes, such as blurring the flowers to a mosaic of light and color in the photograph. Shooting trees. So what I mean by this is that having a grouping of flowers, 3 trees, 3 rocks, gives the eye a virtual triangle, which helps create a sense of balance and stability. And it can help to bring a sense of order to the visual design that is in your photograph. So the triangle can be used in your composition to also point the viewer's eye further into the scene. Ensure subject separation when possible. So if possible, you want to make sure that your subjects have full separation from everything around it and it doesn't intersect or have any distracting elements that cut into it or across it in your photograph. So distracting elements can lead your viewer's eye out of the photograph or away from your main subject. So you'll want to be careful of that. Finally, remember to have fun. Enjoy the experience. Take your time and enjoy the time outdoors. I always try to capture what I'm feeling when I make images of nature, the landscape, trees, animals, and wildflowers, so that I can relay that back to you as the viewer. It's not always about making the image, but just enjoying that experience. So I hope that you were able to get something useful out of this week's video. I'd also love to hear what types of things you do to capture beautiful images of wildflowers or nature. Please leave a comment, question, or suggestion below. And it really helps out the channel if you give the video a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm will make it available to a larger audience. And if you like this type of content, please feel free to share the link and subscribe below and hit that notification bell so you're alerted the next time that I put out a video. I hope you have fun shooting your own wildflowers. And as always, thanks for taking time to watch this video this week. Now get outside and capture great light.